final project presentation script, the 23andMe data breach. Hello, my name is Noman Ahmed Saeed and I'm based in Chicago. My EDX username is 425. The date of this recording is May 16, 2025. This is my final project for the cybersecurity course. Today I will be discussing the 23andMe data breach, a highly significant event in cybersecurity that illustrated what can go wrong when companies handling extremely sensitive data do not adopt adequate protective measures. Why I have selected this topic? I choose 23andMe breach because it represents a convergence of topics we explored in the course: authentication, identities, security, data privacy, system design, and response strategy. What makes this case unique is the nature of the data involved. Unlike passwords or email, genetic information is permanent. Once exposed, it cannot be changed. So when a company like 23andMe experiences a data breach, it doesn't just lose data, it potentially impairs the lives, identities, and privacy of entire families. The company background of 23andMe is a personal genomics and biotechnology company headquartered in South San Francisco, California, USA. It offers direct-to-customer DNA testing services that allow users to learn about their ancestry, genetic traits, and health. By 2023, millions of individuals had used their services, making 23andMe one of the largest genetic data repositories in the world. As you can imagine, this makes them a high-value target for attackers. The attack began in August 2023 when attackers started using a method called credential stuffing that took advantage of people reusing the same password across different services. In early October, the hijackers themselves disclosed the breach by leaking data on a dark web forum. On October 6, 23andMe acknowledged the breach publicly. In December, they began notifying affected users. By then, the damage was already widespread. What happened? So, what exactly happened? Attackers used credential stuffing, an automated technique where previously leaked usernames and passwords from other sites are used to gain access to accounts. This worked because 23andMe did not require multi-factor authentication. Once inside, attackers exploited a feature called DNA Relatives, which allows users to discover and connect with genetic relatives. This feature gave them access not just to one user data but to extend family networks. Technically, this was not a direct breach of 23andMe's servers, but rather a misuse of valid access. Once they logged into accounts, the attackers used automated tools to scrap data from relatives' profiles through APIs. These APIs were designed to provide information to authenticated users but lacked safeguards like rate limiting or behavior detection. Essentially, the attackers used the system's intended functionality against itself. The data was compromised. The stolen data included full names, profile photos, date of birth, location, ancestry, composition, haplogroups, and even health predispositions. For some users, family trees and external links to services were also compromised. Around 6.9 million users were affected at the ancestry level and 1.4 million at retail had related genetic data accessed. The security breach was exposed several security flaws. First, the lack of mandatory MFA was a huge oversight. Secondly, there was no effective monitoring of suspicious scrapping behavior. Third, APIs were not fortified against mass extraction. Lastly, the company delayed disclosure, a critical failure in incident response that eroded trust even further. Regulatory and legal fallout, the repercussions were swift. Regulatory agencies in the UK and Canada launched formal investigations. In the US, multiple class action lawsuits were filed. By September 2024, 23andMe agreed to a $30 million settlement with affected users. The company reputation took a massive hit and trust in consumer genetic testing was shaken globally. This case ties directly to our course modules on the authentication side. It shows why password reuse is dangerous and how credential stuffing thrives in the absence of MFA. From a system perspective, it highlights how API endpoints must be secured against misuse. On privacy, it reminds us that companies must minimize data and exposure and ensure that sharing features are opt-in built by default. Finally, it illustrates how incident response needs to be swift, transparent, and user-focused. Preventive recommendations can be to avoid similar breaches. Companies should enforce MFA for all users and monitor for signs of credential stuffing like tools that can help them. APIs should have been limiting IP throttling and anomaly detection. Data sharing features like DNA relatives should use opt-in rather than opt-out models. Red teaming exercises and vulnerability disclosure programs can also have uncover issues before attackers do. Ethical and social impact was beyond implication. This breach brings ethical concerns. Leaked genetic data can be used for discrimination, targeted attacks, or even identity theft. It disproportionately affected minority groups such as Chinese and others, or those who are in less population. And the consequences, families with ancestral health conditions were exposed without consent. In closing, the 23andMe breach reminds us that cybersecurity is not just about protecting systems, but protecting people. Especially when dealing with data that defines identity, health, and lineage, the bar of security must be exceptionally high. This breach was preventable and it must have served as a warning for how not to manage a sensitive data. Thank you very much.